Our speaker today, Richard Coleman, will present a to-do list for undoing the damage that Obama has done to our country. Richard Coleman has served as national co-chair of Lawyers for Reagan-Bush in 1984. He is a graduate of Georgetown University and Harvard Law School, and he has hosted TV forums on legal and financial topics and written extensively on political issues. He is a fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers and a professor at Pepperdine University's Strauss Institute for Dispute Resolution. He blogs at www.ireallymissreagan.com. And we have a list of his blog posts on every table, so take one and check out the topics that interest you. Our speaker is also the former president of the Los Angeles County Bar Association and a recipient of Pepperdine's Excellence in Teaching Award. Let's give a warm holiday welcome to Richard Coleman.
Thank you, Betsy. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I'm so pleased to be here. I'm Dick Coleman, and let me give you a shorter introduction. I'm a recovering trial lawyer. I was first asked to speak back in October by Diane, and I couldn't make it. And I'm so glad I couldn't make it, because my speech would be an entirely different one than the one today. I was convinced that Hillary had it. I was convinced that she'd win in a landslide. So come election day, I know the body would want to watch the TV. I could not abide to sit there and listen to those people brag and smirk. So I went to the movies. I saw 2 movies back to back. I haven't done that for 60 years. The last time was when I was depressed about a final exam in college. Pictures I chose to see were Doctor Strange and Trolls. I thought those titles would be appropriate for the day. So I got home about 10, and Bonnie said, "This is really exciting." And I said, "Premature. Let's watch some sitcoms and then see what happens." But lo and behold, we turned it on and got the news. The unbelievable had occurred. So I sent out to all my subscribers in caps the following message: I was wrong. I was wrong. Thank God Almighty. And in the message, I mentioned that Michael Moore, you know who Michael Moore, had said.
You mean Michael Moore?
He said that the American people were going to deliver an emphatic, unprecedented message, which he put in vulgar terms, I'll leave that to your imagination, to the powers that be. He was still supporting Hillary, but he was predicting a Trump win. I said this, I never thought that I would be happy that Michael Moore was right on that issue. So, we watched the next day, all day long, And Bonnie said, "I've never seen you smile so much." In one of my blogs, number 19, it ends with one of the great pictures of the year. It's NBC panel as the Florida vote came in. And there's Brian Williams, Rachel Maddow, and Chris Matthews on the floor. The expressions on their face were wonderful. Okay, my to-do list. January 20, we have only 41 days left for the narcissist. That's it. Yeah. Trump comes in. Yeah. What are his priorities? What do you think should be number one on his list? Anyway. What's
The law.
Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court. Very, very close to what should be on his first list.
Yeah.
Drain the swamp.
Drain the swamp, that's close too. That's up there too.
Rebuild the military and get ISIS.
That's up there too.
Kill the executive orders.
Oh,
That's up to Go away. Has to be done before any of those are done. That's a good one too.
Obamacare.
Swearing in.
Beat the filibuster rule.
Yes.
60 votes.
Yes.
Beat that, because unless we beat that, we can't get the Supreme Court. Yes.
but would that come to harm us if the Dems ever took over?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Would that come to harm us if the Dems took over the Senate?
I'm going to address that. Okay. Patience. We have become aware of it, a phony 60 vote filibuster rule. Now, when I was a kid, back in the Middle Ages, filibusters were when somebody took the floor and you kept talking, and nobody could bring up new business. And you didn't have to talk about the issue. You could read cookbooks, read the telephone directory, but it took stamina. You had to stand on that floor and keep it. And the idea was to build up popularity for the cause that you were espousing. It's a great movie, 1939. Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Remember that one? Jimmy Stewart. And the plot of that movie was Jimmy Stewart was a youth leader of the Boy Rangers, read Boy Scouts. Very, very popular. They had a vacancy in the Senate. And the powers that be didn't want to shift to one person or another. They thought what a great popular vote would be if we appointed him for the remainder of this term. Popular figure. And he's naive and we can live him. So they do it. And he takes the Senate, and his mentor is Claude Rains. Remember Claude Rains?
Yeah.
The French inspector with Bogey and Casablanca. To keep him out of trouble, he suggests that Jimmy introduce a bill. And he chooses to introduce a bill to purchase property that will be used for the youth of Boy Rangers. Sounds good, except that the powers that be had marked that property for a profitable business venture that they were going to use. So now, this guy's causing problems, and they organize opposition. And he decides to filibuster. And he gets up there. And he's winning the popular vote. People applaud him. But he's on the floor, he has no access to that. And the powers that be slant him. We're used to that, aren't we? The media slanting things. At the last moment, they fabricate letters to him from his constituents, denouncing him for what he's doing. And after 24 hours on his feet, he reads these things and collapses. Whereupon Claude Rains, his mentor, has an attack of conscience and confesses the corruption that his message should pass. Great, great movie. Got all kinds of nominations. I think only won one award. That was what a filibuster was. But that took guts and determination and stamina. And being a curmudgeon, I think those qualities are disappearing in our country. So they came up with a new situation. The only way that you could stop debating on something was if you got 60 votes. The new math, 51 equals 60. And the Democrats loved it when George Bush was president. And if you remember, they blocked one judicial appointment after another, including Jeff Sessions, who was up for a judgeship, and they blocked him. You're going to hear more about that in weeks to come. So they loved it. And people said to Republicans, this isn't right. You shouldn't have to get 60 votes when 51 is the majority. And McCain said, oh, we don't want to destroy that. And there's a way to stop it. It's called the nuclear option. Meaning it's going to explode what's happening. Now, I explained that to you, but Bonnie read my blog and said her eyes started glazing over. So take it that it's a procedural machination that gets you back to the 51. We can't do that. This protects the minority. And when we're in the minority, this will be useful to us. Well, maybe remember what happened. 2000, Republicans were in the minority and they started blocking Democrat appointees. Fouled by the Democrats. Biden says this is unconstitutional. I've never seen anything like this, where you have to have 60 votes but 51 would do. So 2013 comes along and Harry Reid says, nuclear option. And they do the procedure and they break it down so Republicans no longer have that protection. They make it that a simple majority would be good for all measures, with one exception, the Supreme Court. Now, I think the exception was because Harry, despicable as he is also shrewd. And he felt there were probably enough Republican rhinos who would be scared to vote against a pro-abortion, save Roe versus Wade nominee. And he was right. And that's how we got Sotomayor and Kagan. Now, let's get even more recent. October, a couple months ago, Reid comes out and says, thinking, as I did, that Hillary had it, we're going to take the Supreme Court out of that too. It's going to be a simple majority for everybody. And he gives a typical smug quote. He said, I've done it. And he snapped his fingers and could be done like that. Lo and behold, what happens? Trump wins. Now, you think smooth sailing, right? Simple majority for everything, right?
No.
No. Problem. We have a problem, Houston, Washington. Orrin Hatch. Orrin Hatch said the following: I'm one of the biggest advocates for the filibuster. It's the only way to protect the minority. And we've been in the minority a lot more than we've been in the majority. It's just a great, great protection for the minority. Where has he been? He's losing it. 2 months ago, they told you it's not going to be protection for the minority for you guys. It is so discouraging. He's been in the Senate 40 years. 40 years. With 5 more to go. And he's lost it. And what's the upshot of that? We have a 51 vote right now. If Kennedy wins in Louisiana, it's 52. patched effects. Lindsey Graham, our staunch Lindsey Graham, said he agrees with patch. There goes the majority. And they're not alone. So, number two on the list, or I should say, filibuster. Number two would be the rhinos. Rein in the rhinos. Republicans in name only. I think it's more nuanced than that. I think some of it's not ideological. It's just that they like being popular in the Beltway, which infects people. They are the Washington Generals. Does anybody know Washington Generals that mean anything to anybody? Yes, the Harlem Globetrotters. You all heard of them? A famous barnstorming basketball team. Great talent and comedic talent as well. They put on exhibitions all over the country. However, they needed somebody to play. So they created a team called the Washington Generals. Now, the Washington Generals would change uniforms, change names, but they were always the Washington Generals. And they were there to give the appearance of a contest, but not to win. As the Washington Generals were to the Harlem Globetrotters, the Rhinos were the Republican Party, to the Democratic Party.
We had that in the district.
Yes,
Right.
the Washington Generals. Now, I am not a big fan of Mark Levin when he gets on one of his rants. Voice kind of just drives me up the wall. But often he is righteous. And he said this: your United States Senate, with majority Republicans, 54 Republicans, vote us in, we'll repeal Obamacare. They didn't.
No.
We'll cut spending. They didn't. We'll secure the border.
No.
They didn't. Your Republican Senate has utterly and completely capitulated. I don't care if it's unanimous or not. He's right. He's right. The prime example to me was Loretta Lynch when she was up in AG. Now, Obama, if you remember, went on television at least 20 times to say he did not have the power to make illegal immigrants amnesty. Didn't have the power. But he did it. And so they asked Lynch in the confirmation hearings whether she would uphold that. Oh, yes, she said. And I said, talk about simply being naive. That kills her. We've got a majority. Who's going to nominate, approve an attorney general who just said she'll do something unconstitutional? You know who. 10 Republicans voted for her. We wouldn't have had her in there if they had stayed true to their principles. 10 of them, including Patch, including Graham, including Susan Collins, including Kelly Ayotte, including Mitch McConnell. Hard to believe. We brought this on ourselves, folks. So, what to do? We cannot, there'll probably be a couple of Republican Democrats that will cross the line, but you can't depend upon that. And we know in the first 100 days, the Democrats are not, despite their promises, going to work for a smooth transition. There'll be no reciprocity. I didn't realize this until I did some research. But on Obama's first day in office, the Senate confirmed 7 of his appointees. By the end of the week, it had cleared more than a dozen more at senior level. 19 approved in a week. Do you think that's going to happen? No. It's already underway. Plans to make this a grinding procedure. Any senator could call for procedural votes. It could take 30 hours of time, each of those votes. It's going to happen. This is not the Democratic Party of our grandfathers. This is a bunch of radicals. The Democrats and the Republicans back in the 50s, they had differences, but there were certain shared values. That's gone. These people aren't liberal, they're radical. So top priority, Trump and Pence have to meet with the Republican senators and find out who's on board. And let them know subtly that there are things the White House can do to make their constituents happy or unhappy. They also have to do as Ronald Reagan did, go over the heads of the people who are being the obstructionists and appeal to people. And I love this line of Reagan's. When you can't make them see the light, make them feel the heat. So, that's a big order. Now we come to the first substantive one. Assuming he's successful and we get the 51 votes for the Supreme Court and everything else, we have to get a justice who respects the Constitution. Now, what does that mean, respect the Constitution? The left would have you believe that we need a living Constitution that changes with the times. Note the language, a living Constitution. Who wants to be for a dead one? They stack it. Yes, you want a fixed Constitution. Think about it. 1770s, 1780s. The people who drafted this thing were so damn smart. They didn't have the Department of Education. But they were smarter than the people inhabiting the Senate today. They were versed in the political philosophers. They spent 5 months on this people, citing Montesquieu and Locke. And they came up with a remarkable document. The Federalist Papers talked about it, what do you want in the Constitution? And they focused on human nature, which doesn't change. And they had all kinds of scenarios as to what people would do or not do. And they kind of put that into their plans, creating checks and balances, and creating a system of government never before seen on the planet. Gladstone, the British statesman, said, "This is the most wonderful work ever struck off at a given time by the brain and purpose of man." People lose sight of just how wonderful these drafters did their job. Vito Scalia was incessantly criticized for his fidelity to the Constitution. You talk to these people who want the living Constitution, and it's frightening what they think judges should do. Breyer says we don't look at foreign law when we're deciding what to do for our country. I talked to him, I heard an appellate judge in the Ninth Circuit, which is a huge circuit. There's a lot of talk about breaking into small things. And she said, oh, we can't have that because we need to develop the region politically, economically, and socially. A judge! That's not a judge's job. And who in the world thinks they'd be good at it? Scalia said the principles apply. Look to what the meaning was when it was put in place. It's based on human nature. You can apply it to things that come up that weren't there then. You can apply it now. And if you don't like it, there's a procedure to change it. And it works. That's how we abolish slavery. That's how we enfranchise women. Convince your fellow citizens to do this. He followed that even when it was against what he believed. And the famous example is the flag case, where he upheld the burning of the American flag as a legitimate exercise of free speech, though it really went against his. He said he just hated doing it. That next morning, when he was having breakfast, his wife, Maureen, amazing woman, 9 kids, 36 grandchildren. She served him breakfast while whistling, "It's a Grand Old Flag." True story, true story. Okay, I'm told that I'm off. Let me just conclude with one thing here. No, I'll pick it up when we come back. Go eat. We're talking about filling the Supreme Court vacancy and a living constitution. Well, I'm waiting for the music to die down. Can I be heard? Are you happy about that? We're talking about the living Constitution. And what that translates into is the Constitution means whatever 5 unelected political appointees say it is. And just think about how the founding fathers would feel about that proposition. Makes no sense, does it? We've had a revolution in how we appoint judges. When Whizzer White was appointed, Jack Kennedy's first term, his hearing took 15 minutes. He was on the bench within 2 weeks. Fast forward to Robert Bork and what they did to Bork. The lines, the media pressure for 2 months. We had treated the unbelievable spectacle of Teddy Kennedy lecturing Bork on morals. But it brought a realization to the left. They couldn't get their agenda through with votes, but if they controlled the courts would enact it without the messy procedure of trying to convince. Before Nito died, there were 5 Republican appointees on the bench and 4 Democrat. The Republican nominees all had disagreed among themselves. Even Nito and Clarence disagreed. If it's a liberal agenda item, there is no disagreement among the 4 Democratic appointees. They don't even have to show up in the arguments. You know exactly how they're going to vote. Which means that there's a conservative cause before the Supreme Court, you're reduced to try and get 5 out of 5 to prevail. That's how bad it's gotten. Hillary promised a 5th liberal judge. And you know that that judge would have had to commit preserving Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bull so that abortion on demand would stand. If they got that 5th judge, the game is over. It would have been over. The liberal agenda would have been enacted, and the Constitution, what was left of it, would have been gone in our land. So the Trump victory, as far as I was concerned, was the most crucial issue of the Constitution. He has pledged, yes, sir.
No, I don't know if this is appropriate, but at some point, could you comment on, I think it's the second freedom of the practice of religion, and the government shall make no laws to.
Respecting
The-
religious,
Yeah,
the religious.
because that has also been thrown out the window at authority.
There's no doubt that that's true. And unfortunately, I think the opinion that swayed things was written by Kennedy at one point, was in the wind. And really try to draw a distinction between religion, practice of religion, and the discrimination against people who didn't agree with the religion. And you're right, it has been turned on its head, and that would continue if her justice had gotten on there. You're quite right. Immigration, I would think, would be the next thing that Trump has to take up, because he made it such a crucial point in his campaign. And I think there are 5 things I think need immediate attention. 1, start building the damn wall. Number 2, an easy one to do, deport the illegals in prisons. It's very hard to find numbers on this, and I've done a lot of research. God knows I'm not the best researcher on the computer. The computer to me is still Merlin's machine. But I found one report in 2010 that there were at least 350,000 illegals in prison.
In California.
No. Good one, you got me. And I found another statistic that in 2014, taxpayers paid $1.87 billion to house imprisoned illegals. 1.87 billion. So that's one thing to do. Number 2, stop federal grants to sanctuary cities. There are a lot of programs where they encourage illegal immigrants, stop those, stop catch and release, where they let people go after they catch them. Number 3, Number 4, halt the influx of Muslim refugees. There are absolutely no assurance that there are not jihadists among you. And the odds are that there are jihadists among you. Why do you never hear it raised in the media? Why aren't these people being settled in Muslim countries? Why don't they take them? You want order. Makes no sense, does it? The last one is one that really gets to me. Pass a no-anchor baby law. Imagine anything more idiotic than giving an incentive for people to break the law. Have your baby born here, everything flows from it. It's nuts. It's nuts. Unfortunately, being nuts doesn't mean it doesn't get done. Yes, sir.
In my practice, I hear a lot from my patients as to how illegal immigration benefits their companies or hurts them. One is a contractor who says that, oh yeah, we get those no-match letters that the Social Security number given by the employee doesn't match and we have to get rid of them. By that time, the construction job is done and they've moved on.
Yeah.
My thought was, why is it not mandated that all the states use E-Verify?
Absolutely.
And that would eliminate a lot of this, both for your current and future employees.
Absolutely right. One of my blogs deals more with immigration than I'm doing here today, and E-Verify is part of it. Yes, ma'am.
I had E-Verify was something I was going to ask you about too. Why not, can we use not that for voter ID? Getting education, getting anything with taxpayer money.
You're absolutely correct. And one of my 10 topics is voter integrity. Yes, absolutely correct. A lot of this has got to be boiled down. We'd be here to midnight. But if you take a look on the table, there's a list of laws. And the first 5 we're discussing today will be out on Monday, I hope. Okay, the no anchor baby thing. It is not constitutionally required. That is a myth. It's a myth. And one of the lies goes into the details of it. Basically, the 14th Amendment served one purpose that made sure free slaves were American citizens.
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing to do with illegal aliens. And the Supreme Court said that until 1982, when Brennan, in a footnote, comes up with this thing based upon an article written in 1912 that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. And they seized upon that, the left, and that's what's happening. And then you hear, you can't be a bad person to split up a family. Nobody's asking them to split up. Take the kids
Exactly.
They assume the risk when they came here. They're going to get caught. Anyone else, any of us did something like that, we'd be held for it, wouldn't we? So, Congress can just pass a law, Article 1, Section 8, that prevents the children from legal citizens. Number 5, tax reform. Boy, is that needed. Some reminders before we start discussing this. There is no such thing as government money. It's our money. Why do they lose sight of that? It's our money. Government can only give what it takes from taxpayers, and it takes it through the IRS code. You want to find out about it? Good luck with that. It runs 74,608 pages. 74,608 pages. Well, the left says, this is so unfair. The rich are not taxed enough. Okay, folks, I'm going to read these facts to you. Facts. The top 1% of earners pay almost 40% of federal income tax. The top 10% pay 70%. The top 50% pay 97%, and 47% pay no federal taxes. The top 5% pay a larger total than the other 95% combined. Do you hear that in the mass media? No. The other thing that they obscure, the rich and the poor, they're not static categories. People move from one to another. And as you get older, if you're rich, you move down. It's not the same people. But they make it look like this is a country club down the street. It's a fluid thing, and it's great for America that it is fluid, that we can move from one category to another. Another fact, we are told that poverty is worse than ever after we have spent, ready for this figure? $22 trillion on the war on poverty. 22 trillion. And they only get to that because they periodically redefine poverty. There are people who are, quote, in poverty, who own cars, have air conditioning, TVs, and the latest gadgets. In the 50s, that's the middle class. Now it's the poor. A lot we hear about tax reform are two things that I disagree with. Flat tax and federal sales tax.
Right.
The flat tax because they allow no deductions whatsoever. And so much of America, including yours truly, depends on the mortgage tax deduction, mortgage interest deduction. There are also, I believe, reasonable deductions that are incentives to responsible conduct. I'll mention a few later. The federal sales tax has an appeal because it taxes consumption. That has an appeal. You're getting taxed for what you can afford to buy. However, being a suspicious person, knowing how politicians think, I fear the sales tax will be in addition to the income tax, not in place of it. Okay, now, disclaimer, I am not a tax expert by any means. And what I'm going to suggest as things that should be accomplished are things pretty much from Donald Trump's plans. He put two out. And in my blog, I give you the sites and those, you can read them yourself. No income tax for single persons, $25,000, married persons, $50,000. Compress the categories down to 4. Lower business and corporate taxes, with no business of any size paying more than 15% of its income on taxes.
Yeah, amen.
Certain deductions be reduced, especially the ones benefiting hedge fund managers. One-time 10% tax imposed on the profits of American corporations to motivate those corporations to bring the business back to America. No alternative minimum tax, mortgage and charity deductions remain. The analyses in the book, in my blog, suggest that this will increase GDP 4 to 6%, as opposed to 1% over the last 8 years. Now, incentives. Dollar for dollar charitable deductions, rather than the limited charitable deductions. You want people to give to charity. There are all kinds of studies showing that the Reagan years, there was more people gave to charity when the taxes were down. There are a lot of studies saying conservatives give more to charity than the liberals. The liberals use taxpayer money to give to charities. Dollar for dollar tax deductions for education expenses. So the kids going to school don't have to take out loans. They can get a benefit by paying for it and deducting it from any income they make. Despite billions spent, our education values have gone down, not up, as far as the quality goes. 2 corollaries that I would suggest. Number 1, a balanced budget. To prevent, to encourage our representatives to focus on the essentials rather than loading in pork for their constituents. And the second thing is, God, we need this, a line item veto. So that when a budget is passed up, they can't sneak in a provision for a special interest and then threaten to shut down the government if you don't give it to them. It's nuts. Okay, here's a calculation that came up in 2012. They put the figures on the board. $21,700 is the family income. $38,200 is the family expenses. You're in trouble already, right? Current credit card debt, $16,500. Outstanding debt, $142,710. Budget cuts, $385. Why is this interesting? Because if you add 3 zeros to that, it's the Obama budget. If a family can't sustain it, the government can sustain it. Number 6, Obamacare. Obamacare. There are many proposed plans. Archive block number 22 gives you the sites. You can look at them. Most of them do contain Republican principles, free market principles. But the trend seems to be to try to phase it out gradually over 2 years. Man, I think that's just asking for trouble. My own theory would be repeal it and then handle the fallout on an ad hoc basis as inequities show up. I think there are 3 things that should have been done years ago and can still be done. Number 1, remove the ban on insurance companies competing across state lines. So you get more competition on rates and coverage. Number 2, dollar for dollar deduction for health care insurance. All these plans talk about the problems that flow from businesses giving Cadillac-type health plans. And they want to cap that, I think they're right. But for a lot of people who don't have a health plan, this would encourage them to get it. Young people particularly think they're immortal, but they're never going to get sick. When they get sick, they head for the emergency room, which by law must treat people without charging. So I think that that reduces the impact on emergency rooms and gives people an incentive. Gee, if I pay for this insurance, it's going to come off, my income gets reduced. It gives them an incentive to act reasonably. Second thing, dollar for dollar deduction for medical expenses, including non-prescription remedies. Right now, there are levels of what you can take on a prescription tied into your income. It shouldn't be. This encourages people to take care of themselves. If they know they're buying something that's going to help them, and they can take that off their income taxes, isn't that an incentive to act? Number 7, reduce spending. Every household knows that that is necessary, but these people in the government do not. Thomas Sowell, are you familiar with his work? God, he's brilliant, and he has a knack of the phrase. And he said, politicians are not there to solve our problems. They're there to solve their problems. Number 1 of which is to get elected. Number 2 of which is to get re-elected. What's ever in 3rd place, so far down the list, doesn't really matter. Federal bureaucracy. Now, disclosure. I'm one of those people who thinks that there are very few things the federal government can do better than the private sector can do. I was in the Department of Justice, shocked to find 6 weeks before the fiscal year ended, people running around trying to find projects on which to spend the money in their budget. In private, because Lord forbid they go before Congress and have a surplus. They can't ask for more than that. In private sector, you bring the job done under budget, you're rewarded. In the government, you're rewarded by getting more budget and more employees. The incentives run all the wrong way. How did that? Excuse me. Federal wages outstrip private sector wages for people doing the same jobs. How did that happen? Unions. And the difference is people do not make the distinction between private sector unions and public sector unions. In private sector unions, there is real, genuine bargaining. Everybody has skin in the game. The employer wants to make a profit, so he's got to keep the workers in his company working. The workers want to get more wages, but they know if the company goes bust, they get no wages. There's skin in the game, and it leads to legitimate compromise. The public sector, the people on the other side, are government representatives. It's not their money. They don't care. What they care about is ingratiating themselves with the unions so they get their support in political campaigns, and the thing just cycles in perpetuity. And the irony is that when this started, George Meany, one of the pioneers of the AFL, and even Franklin Roosevelt, no one believed that collective bargaining was appropriate for government jobs. We lost it. We lost that battle. The waste is legion. I mean, you can, slicing trillions is child's play. the government workers petitioned for a day off after Thanksgiving with pay. And they said in it that they had suffered little to no cost of living expenses. They had the strain of threatened shutdowns of the government and the loss of pay during those times, and that morale is at an all-time low. Well, one guy took this thing and he did a number on it. He said, hey, got news for you. There are people out there that haven't got any raises. And the shutdown, that lasts for little or no time, and you get all your back pay when it's over. And as far as your holidays, you get Martin Luther King Day, Washington's birthday, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day. Got news for you. A lot of us don't get those. Yeah, we take time off at Thanksgiving and Christmas. You know how we do it? We take it on vacation. You guys, 3 years they get 13 days. Next 11 years they get 20 days. After 15 years they get 26 days vacation. So he says, he concluded, he says, great grant, great. It'll be in my blog. So now you'd like the taxpayers to pony up the cash for all 2,721,000 of you to take an extra day off on Thanksgiving. So you don't have to dip into your month's vacation. So much common sense in that, and it gets ignored. Grassley and ESA, Senator Grassley represented ESA, sent a letter to 17 agencies that 57,000 employees were on paid leave. It's impossible to fire somebody. People steal, sexually harass. Incredible. They go through procedures and they're all for drawing full pay. In the private sector, you get caught stealing, you're out of there. Out of there. Do you want to go on, or you had enough of me?
I'm glad you did it after lunch.
Around California doing that.
I'm sorry.
I said, I think you need to go on the circuit throughout California, throughout the United States, how much sleep set up for you.
The Department of Education. In '65, when it was still part of HEW, they had 2,100 employees and a $1.5 million budget. For 2016, the budget was $71 billion. $71 billion. But creating it gave the Democrats the support of the teachers' unions, which they have to this day, the most effective lobbies for the left. These stats are there. Student performance has not gone up with all that money. At all. Star Parker, do you know Star Parker? What a wonderful woman. I mean, she was on welfare, had abortions, turned her life around, started a think tank to help people in the little inner cities. I want to read this quote to you because it's so damn good. It would be good news if the Department of Education just wasted the money it gets from our hard-earned taxes, but it uses the money to do real damage. It's not just wasting billions, it forces its own left-wing views on the nation's family. The Education Department should be shut down and these funds either returned to the taxpayers or sent to parents with children in public schools to be used for vouchers for school choice. Proposal, when he gets in, reduce spending on the Department of Education 25% a year for the next 4 years till it's gone. The EPA. It has expanded beyond all reasonable expectations. When Obama took office in 2009 and jumped on the climate change bandwagon, the EPA issued, get this folks, 2,827 new final regulations, taking up 24,915 pages in the Federal Register. Their 2016 budget is $8 billion. They have more than 15,000 employees. In its first 7 years, the budget's averaged a little over $1 billion, and they had 6,000 employees. We should at least start by cutting them back to those first 7 years and see what happens. Do you remember Obama's words, there is no greater threat to us than climate change? Not ISIS, not Iran financing terrorism, not $19 million in debt, and he's contributed more debt than all 43 presidents before him combined. He couldn't attend the march in Paris about the terrorist attack on that satiric magazine. But boy, he was front and center in Paris on the climate change thing, and it cost him $4 million to the taxpayers. There's a blog on this. There is not a material threat from climate change. There are other egregious abuses by EPA. They had one guy jailed on a felony drug charge, and another who admitted to knowingly having sex with a minor. They were off work for months, receiving full salaries. Now, this is really blood-boiling stuff right now. The Obama administration is introducing a last-minute barrage of costly environmental regulation pronouncements before Trump gets in. Gina McCarthy, who's their top administrator, said this in a letter to employees. As I mentioned to you before, we're running, not walking, through the finish line of President Obama's presidency. Thank you for taking that run with me. In other words, forget the election, forget what the voters are saying. We're going to keep churning out the regulations. Next, the United Nations. How long are we going to put up with the United Nations? Proposal. Reduce our contribution, the United Nations and their affiliates, by 20% a year till we're down to we're just picking up 20% of the bill. Recently, and the Obama administration has been a great supporter of the, quote, Human Rights Council, the Human Rights Council.
Oh, really?
Saudi Arabia flogged a guy who won a peace prize for his blogs. Flogged him. Guess who was appointed to the Human Rights Council? Saudi Arabia. Guess who else is on there? The Human Rights Council. Russia, China, Cuba, Venezuela. The worst offenders in the world on human rights are judging us, and their main activity is to smash Israel. Israel is the cause of all the world's problems. All kinds of scandals with the peacekeepers. Foreign aid. Do you know we gave $321 billion to Hamas? That nuts? Iran. I taught negotiation for 17 years at Pepperdine. I would flunk Obama and Kerry. They violated every basic rule of negotiation. They didn't honor commitments. They let the other side know they are desperate for a deal. They did not receive quid pro quo for concessions. They did not nail down details. They ignored the statements of the other parties saying they wouldn't obey the agreement. And they announced the deal without having the writing spelled out. I would flunk it. Flunk it. There's no inspection anytime, anywhere on this deal. There are still secret provisions that we don't know anything about. We gave them billions of dollars, which is going to finance Hamas, Hezbollah, all through the Mideast. And since the deal, they've gotten worse. How about humiliating our sailors? The picture of them on their knees with their hands clasped behind them. And what did Kerry do? He thanked them for releasing them. The United States of America. McCain rightfully hit the ceiling on that one. That whole idea, it should have been a treaty. A treaty takes 2/3. A Republican Senator Coleman cooperated with Obama to turn it around and make it an executive agreement that would go through unless they got 2/3 against it. They turned the thing upside down. And Corker doesn't, best thing about executive agreement is you can tear it up. Corker doesn't want to do that. All right. Integrity of the vote. You know the old joke? My father lived in Chicago and he voted Republican all his life. Since he's died, he's voted Democrat. Acorn, remember Acorn? One of Obama's favorites? One guy testified when he was caught that you don't know how hard it is sitting in a room for 8 hours making up names. Absentee ballots. It used to be that you had to give an affidavit as to why you could not vote in person. That's gone. Early voting. People are voting months before the election. Why aren't you waiting for all the information to come out? It makes no sense. You want to inform voters, don't you? The other thing is people die. We're counting dead people's votes. Doesn't bother the Democrats. ID in order to register. Oh, it's racist. Cal Thomas said, isn't it strange that the poor and minority people get food stamps which require a photo ID? Isn't that strange? Why is it, he says, this is the only thing in modern life we don't require an ID? There's only one reason not to require an ID. It makes fraud harder. One picture, one of my blogs on this thing, great picture. Nelson Mandela requiring ID for voting in South Africa. Racism? Nelson? Don't think so. Already, they're preparing for voter ID, they the left. They are making driver's license required to be given to illegal aliens. Now get this, think about this, folks. An illegal shows up at a government office, admits that he's breaking the law, and instead of being arrested, he's given a driver's license. And they use that as ID to vote. Non-citizens, there have been studies done, they'll be in the blog, 6.4% non-citizens voted in 2008. Electronic voting machines. Do you remember when Harry Reid was running for re-election in 2010? He was trailing by 4 points before the election. He won by 6. The electronic voting machines are run by the Service Employees International Union, which gives hundreds of millions of dollars to the Democrats and gave Harry $10 million in that election. So we had a 10-point swing overnight. Felons voted. Virginia not only gave the felons the vote, they sent them individually registration forms. Well, people say, how do you know they're going to vote Democrat? There have been studies done on it that show 75% of felons vote Democrat. A solution. You would not believe where the solution lies. Mexico. Mexico has a great voter registration program. You need a tamper-proof ID card. All citizens have to personally enroll. Proof of birth or citizenship is step 1. Applicants are photographed and fingerprinted and then required to personally return to collect the voting credentials. So steps we can take: 1, adopt a tamper-proof voting ID card. 2, have your elections on Saturday or Sunday so people can vote. Number 3, require the vote to be cast in the precinct. Number 4, ban early voting. 5, allow absentee voting only on an affidavit showing good cause. 6, count the ballots by hand. And 7, institute term limits. Suggestion. This is the last one, folks. 1 term for senators, 2 terms for the House. I think it is an issue that will appeal to voters. Unfortunately, to get it passed, we have to grandfather the people in Congress right now. And it will be gradual as they retire, the term limits will apply to the successors. I don't see any other way to do it, and to get them to even do that, we need the Reagan apply the heat to do that. I told you about 10 Republicans voting for Lynch. I told you about Corker caving in on the Iran deal being executive agreement on a treaty. More than 30 Republicans voted for the continuing resolution that funded Planned Parenthood, the Iran deal, executive amnesty, and Obamacare. McConnell and Boehner took a budget deal which raised the debt ceiling beyond Obama's term of office. They approved $50 billion of additional spending in 16 and $30 billion in 17. I watched dumbstruck as Paul Ryan explained that this was really good for the taxpayer. I said, Hatch has been in for 40 years. Here's the irony. When he ran against a Democrat named Frank Moss, who was a 3-term incumbent, 18 years. Hatch said in his campaign, "What do you call a senator who served in office for 18 years? You call him home." He argued that many senators, including Moss, had lost touch with their constituents. Somebody will remind them about those words. McCain has been 33 years with 5 more to go. McConnell has been 31 years with 5 more to go. Conclude this section and this talk with words of Ronald Reagan. And boy, I really do this Reagan. Professional politicians, he said, like to talk about the value of experience in government. Nuts! The only experience you gain in politics is how to be political. And he said this: concentrated power has always been the enemy of liberty. The one thing our founding fathers could not foresee, they were farmers, professional men, businessmen, giving up their time and effort to an idea that became a country. Was a nation governed, the last thing they thought was a nation governed by professional politicians who had an interest in getting reelected. They probably envisioned a fellow serving a couple of hitches and then eagerly looking forward to getting back to his job. Trump has his work cut out for him, but boy, he has a fertile field to plow. Key to it is getting the Republicans on board. Thank you so much. I was to talk to you, and by all means, you can criticize